I married early. At the age of 20, right out of college, I married my husband, Ethan. Ethan is a hardworking man. True, he is almost never home. He works from morning till night, doing everything he can for the family. We have a growing daughter, Lily, who is now 4 years old. I stay at home and take care of her. Sometimes I take her to Ethan's mother or my own mother's house for a little rest, and it helps me feel a brief sense of freedom and normalcy. These visits give me a chance to remember who I am besides my mother, but the relief is often bittersweet, as the weight of responsibilities does not leave me. I consider myself beautiful, slim, and well-groomed. I take care of myself, but Ethan doesn't seem to notice. He comes home tired, eats and goes straight to bed. Sometimes I feel invisible, as if the woman I was before marriage and motherhood has been sidelined. This growing sense of being blotted out causes me to seek validation in unexpected places, which influences decisions I might not have made otherwise. It's like I'm grasping for fragments of the person I used to be, hoping to feel seen and appreciated again, even if only fleetingly. Lately, I've started to notice that our neighbor is looking at me in a special way. Jake, a student 3 years younger than me, lives in the apartment next door. We often meet in the hallway or in the courtyard. He's funny, always joking and complimenting me, and I often chat with him when we go out for a smoke on the landing. His carefree demeanor and youthful energy remind me of a time when life seemed simpler and easier. One evening Ethan called me and told me that he would be away for a few days for work. I don't like to be alone. Ethan's mom took Lily away for a couple days and told me to rest. The silence in the apartment felt both foreign and heavy, emphasizing how much of my life had come to depend on the constant presence of other people. I pondered what to do with this time, torn between wanting to savor the rare silence and feeling the gnawing emptiness that comes with loneliness. It was as if the absence of the usual chaos only intensified the loneliness I carried within me, making it impossible to ignore. So there I was, all alone in an empty apartment. The silence was almost oppressive, and I found myself wandering aimlessly from room to room. In the evening, I went out for a smoke, and Jake was there. He greeted me with his usual grin, and we got to talking. I told him that my husband was away, and he was so thoughtful. "Listen, do you want me to keep you company? We can have a beer and watch a movie or something." At first I hesitated, not knowing if it was appropriate, but then I thought, what's wrong with that? We'll just sit around and chat. It would be nice to have someone to talk to instead of staring at the walls. He came in half an hour later with a bag of beer and chips. We sat down in the kitchen, put on some music, and talked quietly about everything in the world. He talked about his classes, his friends, and his dreams for the future. I laughed like I hadn't laughed in years. His stories were so lively and full of humor that I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, even if only briefly. Later, we moved to the living room and decided to watch a movie, some horror movie I can't even remember the name of. I always get nervous when I watch scary movies, and every time I flinched, Jake took my hand and tried to calm me down. His touch was warm and soothing. From that moment on, everything changed. I don't know how it happened. Maybe it was the beer, or maybe it was the loneliness. I was so lonely. At one point I realized I wasn't looking at the screen, I was looking at him, and he was looking at me. There was such intensity in his gaze that my heart raced. Then he leaned in and kissed me, and I responded. Everything became a blur. His hot hands, my running thoughts, a rush of emotions I hadn't felt in so long. I completely lost my head. We ended up doing it right there on the couch, to the soundtrack of some stupid movie. It was nothing like it had been with Ethan, passionate, rough, and electric, like it was the last time I'd ever felt like that. With Ethan, everything had become routine, predictable, and lacking the spark we once had. His work fatigue and lack of meaningful connection made me feel neglected and unimportant, like a minor detail in his busy life. This contrast between the spontaneity with Jake and the monotony with Ethan overwhelmed me, even as I tried to realize the wrongness of my actions. For a fleeting moment, I felt alive in a way I hadn't felt in years, but guilt crept up on me almost immediately afterward. I woke up this morning with a wild sense of guilt. Jake had left during the night, saying I needed to rest. I lay there, consumed by what I'd done, wondering how I was going to face Ethan now and how I was going to live with this secret. I didn't leave the apartment for the next 2 days. I turned off my phone so Jake couldn't reach me. Whenever I heard footsteps on the stairs, I froze with fear. Maybe it was him. Maybe the neighbors had noticed something. Every sound seemed like a potential confrontation, and I was drowning in paranoia. Ethan returned 3 days later, as promised, and brought gifts for Lily and me. He looked tired but happy to be home, and his smile was like a dagger in my heart. I couldn't even look at him normally. He didn't suspect a thing. He told me stories about his trip, about thinking about us the whole time, and it made the guilt even stronger. And now I live with that weight on my soul. Every time Ethan hugs me, I remember that night, and I hate myself. Ethan doesn't know anything, and he never will, but I do, and that knowledge gnaws at me from the inside out every day. It's a constant, silent punishment, a reminder that I failed to hold on to what really matters. I realize now that no thrill, no fleeting moment of excitement is worth betraying the person I love. I'm spending more time with my family, trying to be a better wife and mother. Perhaps in a way, I am trying to redeem myself. I've started cooking new meals for Ethan, making time for little moments with Lily, and finding ways to bring laughter and warmth back into our home. It's not easy, and there are days when the weight of my secret seems unbearable. But I haven't given up hope that my actions now can somehow outweigh my mistakes, even if only in my own heart.